Myth number 1. The friend zone.
But it's actually good and good for you.
Let me explain. So after the first time I was friend zoned, I continued to talk to her as I didn't know any better. As you would expect, she never became interested in me. However, she did end up becoming my best wingman ever. So the next time she reaches out, mention you have a date and ask for advice. You can even say you're a bit nervous just to seem more likable. And, the dynamic will change and you have nothing left to lose, so you might as well do it anyways. But this next myth is, it goes against all mainstream advice. But to best explain it, I need to tell you about a monkey that was hooked up to an MRI machine in the 90s. So scientists were observing how its neurons fired in his brain when it did something like eat a nut. What they didn't expect, however, is when that monkey saw one of the scientists decide to eat one of its own nuts, that it had some of the same reactions in the brain as if it ate it itself. This led to the discovery of mirror neurons. So how is this relevant? Well, it's proven we're wired to feel similarly to the way we see others act. Their mood, comfort level, behavior is all very influential. So if you were to follow the first date advice that you should act all cool, smooth, or in ways you think she may like, you risk just not coming across genuine, and any nervousness will likely just be mirrored onto her. Now, enough experience over time will solve this, but if you could just focus on enjoying the date and getting to know them, it'll remove the pressure and it'll help project the vibe that you actually want mirrored onto her. Now, next is another first date myth that I believe the majority of young guys believe is true. So when I was younger, my decision making in a lot of situations was based on things I believed I should do. If I was on a first date, it was like a voice that would come in my head and say, yo, don't be a chicken. You need to make a move on her. Someone who's a cool, smooth player would be able to, so I should too. Like, there's a legitimate social pressure to be the guy that begs a lot of women. But if you're after that, you need to read the room. Women are all different and they want different things. And this is why it's a myth that you need to make a move on the first date. Like, if you're both flirting and things are naturally progressing in that way, then sure. But most first dates are just best as a vetting process, especially through dating apps where you don't really know them yet. Now, myth number 4 is actually related to some regrets of mine. So going back some years, I was open to relationships, but my priority was just having fun. And I wasn't always clear on that. I didn't know if you put time into your appearance and just play the numbers game with actually going out and talking to women, you can find plenty of them that want just that. Like, I promise you, they are out there. And that's why it's a myth that you need to be a player to hook up a lot. Playing or using women is just as much of a skill issue as it is a moral one. Now, this last one will help you interpret any advice for myth. And it's another lab experiment, but instead of with monkeys, it's with 42 infants. Well, actually 44, but one was excluded due to fussiness, and one fell asleep within the first few trials and could not be awakened.
He's gonna be okay, right?
Now, this kid ends up looking a bit special when I draw him, but they tracked their head and eye movements of these babies when different objects appeared on a screen in front of them just to gauge what grabs their attention. They liked things they could recognize, but interestingly, as soon as objects showed any sort of predictability, like them repeating, they would lose their attention. And the same thing would happen if the objects were too complex without any obvious pattern. Therefore, we're attracted to things that are new yet still familiar. So again, what does this have to do with dating? Well, this phenomenon, called the Goldilocks principle, can be applied using just the right amount of strategy in dating. Like how playing hard to get works, but doing it too much and they'll think you're not interested. Now, while not falling for these myths is certainly important, one of the most critical things you might be overlooking is actually some hidden red flags. I experienced 4 that took me by surprise, and I talk about them in a video here. Peace.